Good morning, Darcy.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing well, thanks. How are you all?
We're good. We're good. We see some sunshine out your window. That's not quite what we have here right now, so a little jealous, but
It's on its way here, no worries.
so we have an update on the land use plan.
We do. You want me to go ahead and dive in?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me share my screen and we will go from there. See that okay?
No.
All right.
There we go.
Okay. So we have a pretty quick update today since I'll be in town next week and we've got our public meetings, but just wanted to give you guys a bit of a status check since it's been a little bit since we did one of our updates. So the good news is that, here we are just about a year to the day from when we kicked off the project last year, and we're on the home stretch. So the public draft was released last week, and we're going to talk today about some of the plans to get us over the finish line. So in terms of the draft, as you all know, we released.
Excuse me, Darcy, just a second. We're seeing all the slides at once right now. Did you want to put up one at a time, or?
It's showing your slide sorter, Darcy. I don't think it's showing like
There.
PDF. There you go.
Okay.
You good now?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so in terms of the draft, we released the public draft last Monday. And as you all know, we had released an internal draft back in December. So that went through a full vetting process with the board, planning commission, our LUPAC, our technical working group. So we made substantial refinements and changes based on the feedback we got. That was a very productive process. And I think we got a lot of solid feedback to really strengthen the draft. So we feel good about where we've landed. We're looking forward to getting input from the community and kind of see how this plays out in terms of, kind of the broader perspective. So I'll talk a little bit more about kind of the input process, but just want folks to know that, we wanted to get the draft out before the meetings so that people had a chance to take a look at it and, kind of get familiar with the sections that were most relevant to their, particular area or issues, that they wanted to make sure were addressed, and kind of see how the plan shook out in those areas. And also that we wanted to make sure that the comment window is open for an extended period of time. So the comment window will close on March 10th, and then I'll talk a little bit about the various ways that folks can, kind of review the document as well as provide feedback for consideration. Just to kind of briefly orient folks, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this today, since that's what we're going to cover next week in the public meetings, but there are 5 different chapters in the plan. Each has a specific focus, and then also the appendices have a lot of the supporting information that I know a lot of folks were interested in terms of, additional detail on demographics and some of the housing projections and, those types of things, as well as links to the public input summaries. And, one thing to note is that, as you all know, we had extensive public feedback throughout the process. We've documented all of that feedback, and those reports have been available as we complete them. So we have links to those in the document, but we have not included them, kind of as part of the plan itself, because it would add hundreds of pages to the document. So just be aware that if you're interested in those details, you'll need to track those links down on the website, and you can look at those results in their complete form. The other thing I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of as they're starting to get familiar with the document and, kind of get their head into the recommendations, is that there's really 2 tiers of policy guidance in this plan. And that's similar to what you had in 1998. You had countywide goals and policy direction, and then you also had your planning area policy statements. That structure has been carried forward. And so, it's important to know that, there are issues that were relevant no matter who we talked to and where we had those conversations. So for example, we heard a lot about protecting ag lands. We heard a lot about protecting wildlife, at a high level. Excuse me. So we've addressed those issues at a countywide level in chapter 2 and 3 in terms of kind of the overall growth framework and how those issues play out in terms of, where and how the county will grow. But we also have more detailed or different guidance in the planning area sections. And so folks really need to be aware that if you see something, that concerns you in the countywide section, be sure and look at what's said about those issues in your particular planning area and kind of think about it in context. And so there are some issues that are addressed more generally there, and then they're not addressed at all in the planning area section. So following the plan's adoption, these two things would be used in tandem. So it's really important to know that, higher level on the countywide perspective, where we heard a desire for more detailed guidance or specific recommendations, we've included those in chapter 4. So just something to be aware of as folks are looking at the plan. As far as input opportunities, there are a lot of different ways for folks to look at the draft, and we want to encourage, broad, participation in this stage of the process, because this is really where the rubber meets the road. Folks have really been clamoring for the specific recommendations. We've got them here. We want to make sure we get that feedback. So next week, rather than doing kind of a all around the county approach, Joy had a great suggestion to let's kind of stay in a couple of places and be available throughout the day, have multiple presentations so folks can really choose the option that works best for them. We'll be in Powell on Tuesday and Cody on Wednesday, and we're going to be there all day and part of the night, and really just be available for folks to come in and ask questions about their particular concerns, their area. We are going to do formal presentations at 9 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. So again, want to make sure we give folks as many options as possible. So we really encourage folks to come by. If you, have questions that you're, want to have a chance to just talk one-on-one with us, probably best to stop by, at kind of one of those off hours. But if you just want to hear an overview and maybe get oriented, maybe stop by during one of those presentation times. We do have the document posted online. There's a tool that we use called Conveo, which allows folks to actually comment directly on the draft. As of this morning, we've had almost 900 views of the document. So people that have actually checked out the link and at least kind of gotten familiar with it. There is a kind of a guided tour. You can go through and read a little bit about each of those chapters and maybe decide which ones you want to drill down in on. But you do have the ability to comment online that way. And you can also download a full draft of the plan. And then we also have a separate map portal that Brian and Maddie at TO had created. And this is a way for folks to review and comment on the actual land use plan map. And so as a quick reminder, the 1998 plan really relied specifically on, kind of the suitability. We've added an additional kind of policy guidance in this draft, which looks at the future land use. And so that is something that folks can view, zoom in on, to their particular area, their particular parcel, and try to get some, a sense of what the plan says about those different areas. So another way for folks to weigh in and something we really want to get feedback on. And then wanted to also just really emphasize that because this stage of the process is so important, that folks know that there's been a lot of outreach in terms of just getting the word out for these opportunities, newspaper ads, radio interviews. The county sent out over 6,000 postcards this time around based on feedback that we heard. And then we've also continued to add to our e-blast subscribers. The last blast that went out last week with the draft, 566 folks are getting those updates. So we're hoping that we'll get a good turnout next week, and a lot of feedback through this process over the next few weeks. And then in terms of next steps from there, our plan is to, we will have our final LUPAC meeting next Monday. That will be a virtual meeting. They'll be there in person with you all. And then, as I mentioned, the public comment period will end on March 10th. So that will be when, we go through, we're working with staff and the board to really look at the comments that have come in, deciding, kind of what the recommendation will be for the adoption draft, and documenting all of those responses for the public. We will be working towards that adoption draft, getting it back to staff at the beginning of April, and having that draft posted and advertised by April 10th. And so one of the things to be aware of for the folks who are listening is that there are notification requirements, obviously, that we need to comply with in terms of getting our meetings scheduled. So we have a 30-day notice before the P&Z hearing, and then 45 days before the Board of County Commissioners hearing. So we've got tentatively a May date for Planning and Zoning Commission, and then looking at July, early July for the Board of County Commissioners hearing. And that's really driven by those hearing, for those notification dates. So that is all I have today, but I'm happy to answer questions or go back to anything if you wish.
Darcy, one thing I wanted to maybe clear up a little bit. This plan is a planning document. There are no new regulations or any of that are in this document at this time. They are what we heard from the public on areas of concern and places that we might look at regulations or policies in the future, but that is the next step after the plan is adopted. It is just a guiding document at this time, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other comments, concerns?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Take care.
Okay, thanks.